everyone, it's Lindsay. Hope you're living, hope you're loving, hope you're not catching any germs. I have been doing basically nothing except playing Animal Crossing and reading. So today I thought I would share some of the books that I have been absolutely loving the past quarter. Let me just, get those neck rolls real good. So we're just gonna dive straight into this video, and I'm gonna start with middle grade. The first book that I've been loving recently is Dear Sweet Pea. This is the book of my dreams, basically. It is about a little chubby girl living in Texas, and her parents are going through a divorce, but they have decided to make it easier on her. They are going to buy exactly the same house in the exact development right beside each other. The only thing separating her mom and her dad's house is this kind of kooky old lady who lives between them, who runs this like Dear Abby gossip column in the local newspaper. And while the baddie neighbor goes on vacation, our main character decides that she's going to sneak over and take over the Dear Abby section of the newspaper. It's so cute. Other than just being able to completely relate with this like chubby 13-year-old girl, which is like really, really rare in literature, especially middle grade, we still don't have that fat rep that we really need. She's just like not a popular girl. And she does a lot of like socially awkward and embarrassing things to make her life a little bit harder. She kind of has her first like more serious crush. She's got some like friend breakup things going on, and of course like her parents are breaking up. So there's a lot to dig into here, but overall it's cute and it's heartwarming and it's fun and it's relatable and the voice is so good. So moving into YA, I actually have 4 this time, which is really exciting. I'm gonna talk about this one first. I'm so excited about this, and everyone is sleeping on this book. I need you guys to pick this up immediately. It is called The Loneliest Girl in the Universe. This is a YA sci-fi about, okay, I'm gonna tell you what it's about, and some of you who don't like sci-fi are gonna be like, I'm not into that, marking it off the list. Same girl, same, because I was doing that too. But you need to read, so hang tight. This is about a girl who is the only person on this spaceship that is speeding towards a new colony that Earth is trying to make. She was on there with lots of people and her parents. Now they're all gone under mysterious circumstances that you don't know about, the main character knows about, but she's unreliable, so you find out later. Basically, she's been alone her entire life. So now there is another spaceship that is coming to meet her, and she starts talking to people on the ship and people from Earth. And then that's all I want to say. I do think that the blurb of the book is spoilery. I would not recommend reading that if I were you, especially not maybe the last 2 or 3 sentences. Just know what I told you. Know that there is another spacecraft coming and not everything is as it seems. The reason you need to read this is it is the most like viscerally impactful dread that I have ever read in a YA thriller in my life. It's got that like ticking time bomb or like ticking clock trope where there's just like so many days until something happens, and every single chapter starts that way, and it just like ticks down, and man, your heart is just pounded out of your chest. I will say the beginning part kind of feels like your typical not so fancy basic space story. Give it like 50 pages. I promise it'll pick up, it'll get crazy, it'll get wild, it'll get intense, it'll give you heart palpitations. It's got a wonderful mystery subplot because you don't really know what happened, like why she's completely alone. And even then, she's not completely honest about everything she's telling you. It's just so good. The next YA I'm also going to talk about is a YA thriller as well, and it is One of Us is Next. This is the sequel to One of Us is Lying by Karen McManus, and that one was huge. People loved that. I loved that. I thought it was really great. This one is the sequel that we follow a new cast of characters. Some of them we got little snippets of in the first book, but a lot of them are new. Kind of follows the same format where someone gets a hold of all of these students' phones, and someone has started playing like truth or dare or truth and a lie type game where when someone's chosen in the high school, it's kind of like the text is sent out to everyone. If they don't respond, then a like really damning truth is told about that student, or they're given a dare, and it's wild. I loved every single one of these characters, particularly Maeve, who is the little sister of one of the main characters from the last book. She was just wonderful. And there were so many lines from her perspective that really like struck a chord with me. just as somebody who deals with like pain and chronic illness, and then like the almost like the guilt that comes from having a chronic illness and how like you affect the people that you love around you. Like some of those lines like made me real emotional because I was like, oh girl, yes, I feel that. I will say my only small quibble with this book is that it read more like a kind of hard-hitting contemporary issues book more than a mystery thriller. I don't even think anyone dies until like 60% of the way in. And the mystery plot before that is just like, who's sending out these mysterious text messages, not like who's murdering people. So because of that, I did end up giving it like a really specific 4.25 instead of a full 5 stars, but I still really enjoy that. I just think it was less mystery thriller than the first book was. Next, we're going to talk about the one that I still loved, but it was the hardest one to rate, and I'm still not 100% certain on the rating I gave it, and that is The King of Prose by Libba Bray. This is the 4th and final book in the Diviners Quartet that follows a group of teens in the 20s that all have mystical magical powers, and they're dealing kind of with this alternate universe bad ghost dude. That was a really bad description, but I'm assuming by now you either have read it and love it or have given it a try and found out it's not for you, because most people have known what it's about since it's pretty popular. It is no secret that I am a huge Libba Bray fan. Her Gemma Doyle trilogy was my favorite thing ever growing up as a teenager. I just think that her prose and her character developments are better than like 99% of writers, YA, adult, middle grade, it doesn't matter. Like she is on another level. I feel like this book has some of her best work. If you've read things by Bray before, you know that she gets really metaphoric, and she will take a normal chapter and then all of a sudden in the middle of it, she'll just go off on this like almost poetic commentary that is like deeply metaphoric and contextual, and it's all to do with American history and like the state of like racism, sexism, imperialism, like all of this wild stuff that she gets into in this book. It's just so powerful, and I love that. That is like the shining star of this book. The thing that makes this book difficult to rate though, and hard to talk about because it is the 4th book in a series, is that there's like some plot stuff that I wasn't a huge fan of, particularly around the ending with like the magic system and like the culmination of everything. I think it's not a unknown thing that Libba Bray's magic systems are not her strong suit. They never have been in any of her other books, and that's fine. Like she makes up for it with like her prose and her characters. But that is one like little issue I've always had with her books. Her magic is so important to the story, but then it's never fully explained in a way that at the climax you're just like, what happened? And then also, like, I can't believe I'm saying this, because if you read the Gemma Doyle trilogy and you've read the last book, you know it is like a tragic ending. So my other issue with this book is that it just ended a little bit too happy. I feel like the consequences of a book need to be equal to the stakes. These teens are fighting a end of the world type battle, therefore there needs to be end of the world type consequences where there are deaths, and even characters that survive, there should be like, I mean, it sounds awful, but like horrible things that happen to them, like tragedies and traumas and things like that, just because that like makes sense. And then there's balance and uniformity in your storytelling. I don't know. I felt like I wanted a little bit more. But overall, her prose and her characters are just wonderful. I would give my life and the lives of many others for Isaiah. And yeah, so her prose and her characters were wonderful. 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, and then the last YA that we're going to talk about is probably my favorite book of the year so far, and that is Dig by A.S. King. This one is another one that's difficult to pitch because I'm going to tell you what it's about and you're going to be like, it doesn't sound that good. And like same, because I read that synopsis and I was like, I don't really care that much. And then I saw Books and Lala talking about it, and she likes really weird literary, like contemporary with a speculative twist that just gets weird, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. But it's basically a family saga story about 3 generations. You have the grandparents who are also main characters. that had a potato farm, sold the land to a like housing development company and got millions of dollars. But they decided that they did not want to spoil their children by just letting them inherit their money. They want them to work for it like they did. So their children go from being extremely rich to poor overnight, basically on their 18th birthday. And then we are following their children. So it is the grandchildren as they kind of process living in a world with everything that we have going on, but they have no money. It doesn't really sound super interesting, and I totally get that, but oh boy, this book's good. It's told in a really interesting way because none of the 5 grandchildren that we're following have their first names used. They all have titles like the shoveler, the freak, the ringmaster, like things like that, that have like a really like symbolic meaning. I think at the end when you start putting everything together, it's just so beautiful. But it is just an extremely like deep metaphoric tale about these children dealing with sexism, racism, classism, all of these types of things while their family is imploding. I actually listened to the audiobook for this, and A.S. King narrates one of the grandchildren's voices. Oh, so good. A.S. King is also like Libba Bray in the way that she will take a metaphor and go a mile with it, and it's so wonderful and poetic and extremely powerful. There's a chapter near the end where A.S. King is basically like screaming at you through the audiobook, and you can hear it in her voice, like how passionate she is about what she's writing about. It just like tears, like I was crying. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like so many emotions. This is so powerful. It was truly like listening to spoken word poetry at some points. It was just mind-blowingly like goosebumps, chills, couldn't move. It was stunning. It's a stunning book. 5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend. It'll change your life. And read the audiobook if you can. And then moving on to adult, the only nonfiction book that I'm going to talk about for this quarter is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Dougherty. This is written by the same woman who runs the Ask a Mortician YouTube channel, which if you're not following, you totally should. Her channel is just like me to a T. It's all about being a mortician and death and the funeral industry and like really interesting death facts, but it's like told with like dark humor and just like really funny jokes, and I love her personality. Like it's wonderful. And this book is pretty much the exact same. It's just like watching one of her videos. It's got the same tone, the same voice, the same funniness, and really informative at the same time. I found her stories moving and powerful and funny and sad and all of the emotions in between. It was just really great. Again, funny and super informative, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Now we're going to talk about the last adult book that I read, which is the one I'm most excited to talk about, and that is The One. So this is an adult thriller with a little bit of a science fiction twist. Very light though, for those of you who are not science fiction folks. So the premise is a scientist has found the gene that can be isolated and paired with other people's genes to find your genetic and biological soulmate. It sounds like the premise of like a great, happy, fun love story, right? Like 2 people get paired up, they get married, they have kids, it's wonderful. But like, it gets wild. People that are in like married relationships get matched with other people and cheat, or they break up. People who thought they were straight are paired with same-sex couples. People are matched with like pedophiles, the terminally ill, the elderly, serial killers, and everything in between. One of our main characters is paired with a man who died almost immediately after giving his genetic sample. Another main character is the super rich billionaire who created the test, and their pair matching. We follow a man who is about to be married to his wife and finds out that he has been paired with a man even though he thought he was straight his whole life. We follow another main character whose matched pair lives completely across the world from her, and he is, for spoilery reasons, a little uncomfortable with meeting her. And last but not least, we follow a serial killer who has been matched with the cop trying to catch him. And boy, is it twisty, okay? At no point in any of the stories did I know everything that was happening all the time. And the moment you think you know where things are going, that all the twists are over, boom, another one hits you in the face. Reading this book was one of the most fun times that I have had in so long. It's amazing how a book that has 5 main characters you still get really attached to them. They were so well developed. The pacing was incredible. Like every single chapter ended in a way that made you want to turn the pages and keep reading every single time. It was so twisty. Like every single, like there were 5 different storylines. All 5 of them had at least like 4 or 5 twists each, if not more. The ending, oh my gosh, the ending was so explosive that I was just like, Dig was my favorite book in this video, but if I'm gonna recommend you one book to read, it is The One, because it is fun, it is thrilling, it's wild, and I feel like everyone would love it. I feel like it's so commercial, like it's just widely appealing and wonderful. But anyways, you guys, those are the 7 books that I have been loving in the first quarter of the year. Comment down below and let me know some of the books that you've been loving. I always am looking for recommendations. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!